This meeting's been recorded by
MG. Thank you for joining me again on NRL Fans WA. Good to have you back.
Good to be back, mate. How are you? Hold on, I've got a bit of a thing here on my thing. Got it? Yeah, okay, got rid of it. I can see you now. Hey, nice t-shirt, bloke.
Yep. Representing Blake in the bar.
Yeah,
I love his content.
He's a champion, mate. Love him, Denon. Great man.
Yeah, I love his content. He's brought along Rugby League Guru as well, so they're doing some content together.
Awesome, and also Tommy Birmingham and the boys.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so they're all doing pretty well. He's making a real big name for himself out there with the podcast and stuff. So yeah, he's doing awesome.
Good work, brother. So happy you do too.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll get there. We'll get there one day. But yeah, in the meantime, I still work FIFO, so got to pay for all these kids here, mate. So yeah.
Bloody yeah. Tell me about it.
That's it.
I believe you spoke to one of my kids as well.
Yes, mate. I spoke to Maverick this morning.
Yeah,
had a good chat with him. Yeah, it was good. Getting a bit of a fresh perspective, with someone that hasn't made their debut yet, but is on the cusp of it. So, yeah, it was cool. He's very intelligent young man. I reckon from watching his preseason games last year, I thought he was on the cusp last year of even debuting off the bench. So until he got injured.
Yeah, he had a bit of unlucky stick hit him. He had a dislocated elbow and a broken thumb, and then he had the tonsillitis. So he had he'll be good. He's got a good level head on him, and he loves training, which is what you got to do if you want to play footy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, watching his games last year, the effort and stuff that he put in during the games, mate, I was loving it. Could only imagine how proud you were watching him play. Even though it was warm-up games, but putting on that Penrith jersey in basically the first grade team would have made you and the family very proud.
You know what? I've got 5 kids, and I am proud when they're happy, because I no matter what they do, obviously it's with Mav it's a little bit different because it's a very physical sport, rugby league, and I know what it takes to get there and do it. And my older boy Logan was close. He played 20s for Penrith, and I suppose the difference is, but Logs had probably more ability, but just didn't like the training side of it. He'd rather just play. But to play first grade, you've got to, I think Mav went for a wrestle today and went for a bike ride, yesterday. They're doing all these extras that you got to do to make it. But yeah, I just, as you know, we're having kids. As long as they're happy, that makes you happy.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, mate. And Mav was saying that yourself, and you're at the gym yesterday as well, down at MG Active in Penrith.
Yeah, he's there. Well, it's we're in the midst of the challenge, and our first class is at 4:45 in the morning, and sometimes, of course, I've got to do radio as well.
Yep.
I do 2 days a week radio from home, and the other 3 days I go into the city. So the days that I go into the city, Mav has been helping my other boy Logan at the gym. So yeah, it's good family effort, mate. Good family effort.
That's the way, mate. How is MG Active going?
It's going good. Touch wood.
Yeah.
It's we just hit about 250 members, and we're in, as I said, midst of the challenge at the moment, a summer shred challenge that everyone's jumping into. So it's not really a gym; it's more of a club. We've got there's no free weights; it's all about classes, and everyone who signs on usually stays. So it's a fantastic way to stay fit and healthy. And after 2 years of uncertainty with the pandemic, and we opened the gym up in the start of 2020, and 4 weeks later we're in lockdown for 4 months. So the timing wasn't right, but now it's touch wood, we're out of that shit fight. It should be no more dramas here, from now on, buddy.
Yep, absolutely. I follow your gym or your club on Instagram and stuff. Excuse me, and it seems like it's a very sort of family-friendly atmosphere. And everyone wants to come there. Everyone's got a smile on their face. They're putting in the hard work. And your trainers and stuff obviously have got a really good approach to it to keep these members here.
Yeah, well, the trainers are my kids. You know,
Yeah.
my daughter Montana and Logan, and one of Logan's mates, Joel, is the other trainer, and Mav's got his cert through footy, which is a thing that I wish I would have done when I was his age, but I was a late bloomer, and I only just got my cert for it at 52. So, but yeah, it's a good industry to be in if you do it the right way, because it's a lot of people are looking for ways to improve not just their physical health but their mental health, and we've found that being in a group environment with like-minded people does that unbelievably. So yeah, the formula's there for everyone to see, but it's committing to the formula that makes people want to keep coming back, and that's something that we pride ourselves on.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I myself try to go to the gym as much as I can, especially when I'm home, even when I'm up at site. You know, I find it's a bit of a release, you know, like you said, with mental health, just that bit of a release. You know, whether it's lifting the weights and taking your anger out in the boxing bag or whatever it is, it is a release. And I reckon the more people get involved in it, you know, they don't have to go to a gym to be a gym junkie, but
No,
getting involved in the activities and, you know, releasing that stress and getting those endorphins going through their body, it's going to be a better world, better place.
the endorphins. There you go. That's the word. The endorphins. For those that are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and don't know what endorphin release is, you've got to find it. And once you get it, it's a more addictive than any drug you can ever have. It's the best drug you can have. And you work in the mines, don't you?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
You're not claustrophobic?
No.
Fuck me. Oh, mate.
I'm kind of lucky. We work on where I'm at the moment, because I'm a tyre fitter by trade. I don't actually work on a mine site. We're on in a workshop, so it's
Okay.
yeah. I'm kind of lucky that way, and we're on a little island off the west coast of West Australia. So yeah,
How good.
yeah. But yeah, no, I don't have to worry about the claustrophobia, mate. So yeah, I don't have to go down to the tunnels and stuff like that.
Oh, mate. It's my worst nightmare.
Yeah, I bet. With go back to Penrith and stuff like that, mate. You know, you got the team, the club's won the last two premierships, minor premiership as well. How proud are you seeing, you know, even though your boy's coming through that system and he's following in these guys' footsteps, how proud are you seeing these young fellas achieve that?
Oh, immensely. You know, because I know how hard it is to do it. You know, we won one in 91 and we lost one in 1990, and there's a reason there's only been a couple of clubs over the last 20, 30 years, 40 years that have won back-to-back premierships. It's hard to do. And these days it's harder because the salary cap dictates that you can't really win more than one competition in a row. It doesn't allow for that. But I think having the such a local, you know, locally born kids in the squad who pay. You know, Liam Martin just agreed to terms, I think, for another year, where he could have got maybe 150, 200 grand somewhere else. But when you're part of a winning formula, it's addictive, and you want to keep that happening. And yeah, very, very proud. It was funny because the first grand final when Melbourne beat them, was, you know, only 25% of people who could watch, I think, and so Penrith couldn't really celebrate that. The competition that they won last year was up in Queensland, so it was really surreal watching a team in your local area win a competition in Queensland. So you didn't have this. This year was the real deal, and it felt like the real deal. Penrith went crazy like they did in 2003 and like they did in 91, like we did. And I know my joint was pumping. I didn't go to the game. We had about 40 people at my house, and yeah, it was one of them things that now I suppose the question is, can they become the first team since Parramatta in the early 80s to win 3 in a row? And I say, why not?
Yeah, well, it's the way the squad's looking. It's hard not to. You know, the only thing I can see that is probably going to be their downfall is Api Coruscant, but you know, because he's such an influence on getting those forwards over that advantage line. He's probably the only real big loss Kiko is as well, but there's lots of second rows that are coming through the system that it's making it a bit it gets easier for transition to replace Kiko.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Appy was instrumental in a lot of the good things that Penrith did. And if you ask Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai, about the service that he gives them from dummy half, that and all the forwards. But Mitch Kenny is one of the guys who works on his weaknesses a lot. He's a local boy. I always see him doing extras. He's probably one of the best defenders in the whole competition. So you won't lose anything there from him. But I think he'll be working a lot on his ball. His darts out of dummy half and or his service to his outside man, his forwards and his halves. So yeah, there's a young bloke called Sonny Luke as well, who was arguably along with probably Jermaine Hopgood, the two best players in New South Wales Cup this year. He will be, I think, in the top 17. So while Appy is honestly, very hard to replace, there are kids there who will step up.
Yeah, and Penrith also won. What is it? They won all of the competitions this year.
SG
ball all the way up.
Flag, New South Wales Cup, first grade. Yeah, first club ever to do it since rugby league started, 1908.
Yep, and I mean that's a hell of an achievement coming through, But going back to the hooker point that you talked about with Mitch Kenny and stuff, Brendan Smith is probably one of those guys that proves that the service that he gives out of dummy half isn't as good as
Harry Grant.
Cameron Smith, all these sort of guys did, but his effort there with other aspects is what won him hooker of the year a couple of years ago. So
yeah, great point.
The sky's the limit for Mitch Kenny. If he does all those other things right, he can work with his passing and all that sort of stuff, his delivery, he'll be up there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Some big news that's come out during the year, mate. Perth and North Sydney Bears having a talk, maybe a merger in that sort of sense. What are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are that Perth needs a team, no matter what. My thoughts are that they will be the next team put in the competition. But the timing of it will depend upon how the Dolphins go, I reckon. If the Dolphins come out of the blocks and prove everybody wrong and maybe win 6 or 7 games this year and finish around 12th or 10th or 11th, I think the 18th team will be hurried up. I think if the Dolphins come last by a long way, then they'll say, okay, let's put it back a couple of years because the talent pool isn't as strong as we thought. Yep. But I don't think that'll happen. I think the former. I think the Dolphins will jump out of the blocks. I think they've got an amazing forward pack they've assembled. They've bought 3 or 4 up and coming halfbacks. They've got great outside backs, a couple of Origin players at the moment, a couple of Test players, and the biggest cue in the rack is their coach, Wayne Bennett. I mean, he hasn't coached teams that lose. Simple as that. He's a winner. And North Sydney are financially viable. They've got 15. They've been promised $15 million if they are the 18th team by local businessmen who want to back them. And then you throw in the likes of the magnates who follow, Perth sport, the Twiggy Forests of the world, and the mining money that is in Perth. A lot has changed since I played for the Western Reds in 95, 96, 97. We have now a lot more expats from New South Wales living in Perth, Queensland expats, where when I was over there back then, there was a lot of South Africans, there was a lot of Kiwis, and they weren't per se rugby league fans. They were more union or cricket, or so rugby league didn't have that strong of a foothold. But speaking to people from Perth regularly, they say that the time is almost nigh that the team has to be there. And why not combine the two? Why not say we call them the Western Bears, and you play the majority of your games, obviously half and half. You go half in Perth, and the ones that they don't want to play at North Sydney, we'll play them somewhere else. Play them around the country. Play them in the Group 6, Group 10. Like show this new franchise off. I say.
Yeah.
I don't want to have buys in the competition. I don't want to have 17 teams and have a buy. I think we miss out on a lot having a buy. So let's get the 18th team in, and let's. I'm not saying this because I play for the Western Reds. I'm saying this because it makes sense in so many ways. The time distance means you can have a game over there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which would be 4 o'clock here, or if it's 2 o'clock over there, it'd be 4 o'clock here. You have it on, mate. You can have it, prime time through the day, through the night. It just makes sense. I think Bears are itching to get back in the comp. And there's a groundswell of support, and something's got to be done. And I think the Western Bears would be the perfect fit for an 18th team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the Bears, it sort of shows if Perth and the Bears join together, it gives Perth support over East as well. Whereas they probably wouldn't have if they didn't.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
I know the Bears also come across when they were putting their demands in with if they joined with Perth, they only wanted, I think it was 5 or 6 games at North Sydney Oval, and one of them had to be against Manly, which gives the rest of the home games to Perth. So that's it's a huge up, and then it also like WA's biggest problem at the moment is that we're losing young kids to Union or AFL, or they're having to move over east because there's no opportunities here from the ages of about 13 to 17. There's no pathway. The pathway is not as good as what it was. Like we don't have the West Coast Pirates and the SG Ball anymore. So it's the pathway is not there. So they're going to Union or they're going to AFL where there's a pathway system. If we join with the Bears, it gives the Bears in the New South Wales Cup and SG Ball and all that sort of stuff, it gives them a bigger talent pool to pick from. So
without a doubt. And I know when we went to, I know there was a competition up and running before we got there as the Western Reds, but once we got there as the Western Reds, that local competition with South Perth and Joondalup and Fremantle, players that didn't play, who came over to play with the Western Reds who didn't make that, they went back to A grade. So we found ourselves playing on a Friday or Saturday night, then going Sunday to watch our teammates playing for the local teams around Perth. And the buzz was amazing. The buzz was like being at an A grade game in Penrith. It was the big crowds, and rugby league was buzzing along. And obviously in '97 when we folded, it took a big chunk out of a lot of people's lives. And rugby league is a sport that if we want to be national, if we want to call ourselves the National Rugby League like we do, let's be national. Let's have a team in Perth. Otherwise, we call ourselves the Eastern Seaboard NRL because that's all we're. Queensland and New South Wales are basically the only teams we're dictating to. Obviously, Perth are similar. Melbourne are very similar to what I say Sydney Swans are here in Sydney. They've got their niche crowd. They get their 20,000 people each game. They're on the fourth back page of the paper. Rugby league here in this season just gone. I've never seen such a coverage of rugby league in my life. Especially we spoke about all these podcasts that are up now dedicated to rugby league. Everyone's got a voice. Everyone's backing it. Everyone loves the game. So don't give us a buy. Don't give us a buy in a round. So when one team doesn't play, what's the point of that? Let's get this 18th team. We're in 2023 next year. Let's have the 18th team by 2025 and just write it in paper, write it in ink now. Like, let's say it's coming. I really don't think we should pursue another team in New Zealand. I think the union there's too big, and the Warriors. Obviously Warriors haven't played there for a couple of years, but I think just to get the Warriors back to their powerhouse before we start thinking about another team there. Queensland have got their fourth team now, so for the life of me, it just makes sense. And I really think that Peter V'landys thinks the same way, and Andrew Abdo. I think they think the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I hope so because like you said, it makes more sense. New Zealand, I lived in New Zealand, like we talked about before with you. Talked to a few people. I think it was Nigel Vongano, and he was part of the New Zealand Rugby League at the time. He said it's just not viable yet. They need more years to develop. The Warriors need to be on a consistent level, in the top 8 consistently, fighting for premierships for the New Zealand public to follow them on a consistent basis. Whereas when I lived there, everyone was like, "Oh, the Warriors are, who knows what team's going to show up this week." And that's their problem, is they just didn't have that consistency. Where if they got a consistent squad, all that sort of stuff, and they're consistently in the finals fighting for that premiership, the interest will grow, and therefore the junior base will grow, and it provides a great product for them to maybe put in for a team later on down the track. Who knows how many teams we can get? The sky is the limit for rugby league with that sort of stuff.
Well, ideally, I suppose 20 teams would be an ideal number, and you play each other once, like a bit like the NFL. Every game's an event. You have a break mid-year for the Origin. You play the Origin over 3 weeks. Bang, bang, bang. Ideally, this is ideal. In an ideal world. But I just know that every time we take a game to Perth with the Origin, or we take what I'd like to see happen is a couple of more games getting played over there. Like, I know that in the lead up to the Western Reds coming in, there was a lot more games. I think I went over to Perth in '91 after that run-in with Wally, and I was suspended. And I went over to do something over there. And I know back then in '91, the Junior Rugby League had a really good foothold in where they were going, what they wanted to be, and what they wanted to do. I know, Sully, who is a good mate of mine. I saw Sully at Leeton recently.
Yep.
Who just was devastated that the SG board being cut from the Pirates have been cut, because he'd been working so hard to try and help stabilise them. So if you put a team in there, the offshoots around it will happen. The SG ball will have a team back in it. You'll have a flag team back in it. The grassroots will start to grow. It's going to take a good 10 years until you're going to have the numbers that you want to see as compared to Sydney. But you got to be in it for the long haul. Like everything, you got to be in it for the long haul to have a success. And I know you're passionate about it. You keep pumping it up, and there's a lot of other rugby league fans in Perth that want to see it happen. So let's give them all their wish. Yeah,
definitely. The other, I was talking to a mate of mine a few weeks ago, and he was suggesting maybe that we even started with the NRLW team over here.
Why not?
And
why
push
not?
it that way. And we've got a couple of players in the NRLW that are playing at the moment. 3 are in the World Cup at the moment.
Wow.
Kenny Sherrington, Anika Stevenson, and Shanice Parker, I think it is.
Wow.
They're playing over in the World Cup at the moment. So, and then Kennedy's younger sister has just gone over to Parramatta as well, Ruben.
Yep.
So there's a few young girls over here that have come from here. They've had to move over there because there's no way, no pathway.
Yeah.
But if we got an NRLW team over here, that might just boost that interest even more.
Well, I agree. Like even if you went one step further and had a New South Wales Cup team and a NRLW team for the first 2 years.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you get these guys who can't make instead of going to England, they'll go, you know what, we're going to Perth to play New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
Because it's closer to home. It's the same type of, it's probably comparable. New South Wales Cup is probably the same comparable to English Super League.
Yep.
Mate, we're gonna have this conversation for 3 hours. Yeah, we're both talking to the converted. We know that we want a team there. We know it should be there. So let's hope that the groundswell of rumblings that it's going to be there just continues, and until it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. With the troubles, I guess, that the Dolphins have faced getting that marquee player. And obviously the troubles that might arise and more likely arise with Perth coming in. Do you think the NRL and stuff should look at a a trade period and maybe a draft system as well to spread that talent around?
Not sure. Not sure. I think they've got to at least consider it. I think, but what they've got to do is along the lines of AFL, where new franchises, for instance, the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants, they get dispensations for the first 4 years they're in the competition. You know, like for instance, if the first 2 years the Dolphins are in, the first 2 years that the Western Bears are in, that their marquee players shouldn't have to come under the salary cap.
Yeah.
So, well, they're two marquee players that they want to sign for $1 million a year. The NRL pays for them, not the club.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least you've got two marquee players that, you know, I know that when I went to Perth, I was me along with Brad Mackay with the marquee players. I was on 180 grand a year, which back in '95 was good coin.
Yeah.
And I think Mack was on more than me. So then we found out that the Western Reds back then had to pay for all the flights and the accommodation of every away team. So they were never going to make it with that structure. The infrastructure just wasn't set up right. They didn't have the backing of the New South Wales Rugby League, and that's why Super League came in. And we aligned ourselves with them and turned everybody into overnight millionaires. So I was in the right place at the right time for that. But I think long term, some people often ask me, what do you think you would have done if the Western Reds never folded? I said, I'd probably still be there. Yeah, because I love the town so much. I had a great little house up at Careen. Used to go to Hillary's every Sunday and Cottesloe Beach and go down to Fremantle. And it's just a great place to live. It was a great place to bring up a family. And I wasn't unhappy that I came back to Penrith. I always wonder what if.
Yeah. Yeah. How would you feel if they've sort of followed in your footsteps going from Penrith to a Perth team?
I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'd love to go there every second week and watch him. I might get my old house back at Careen. He can live there.
Yeah, that's the way. I was talking about it this morning to him and suggested, or not suggested, but I said, it would be awesome to see, you're following in Dad's footsteps and when there's enough sort of support here for the team and all that sort of stuff. He just got his foot firmly in the Penrith side. If the opportunity comes up, it'd be awesome to see him come over. I know the community, the older community that remember you playing over here, they would embrace him like family.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of them over there too, still.
Yeah,
because absolutely. There's a lot of I find a lot of I have a lot of good chats on social media with kids from fans of ours like 20 odd years ago when I was at the Western Reds. Now their kids are now reaching out saying, my dad used to be this, my mum was that. They love the Western Reds, and like you're saying, let's get them back, and like we're saying, let's get them back. And yeah, I'm just as frustrated as everybody. I'd love to see him back. It's the one down part of it for mine was the travel.
Yeah,
but we didn't stay there long enough to get used to it. Look at the Dockers and the Eagles. They've done it for 30 years. The Perth Glory have to do it. The netball team, is it the Fury? No, the what's the
Fever.
The Fever. Yeah. Perth teams travel because they've got it. It's a big advantage when teams are going to come to you because that home advantage being in Perth when people are on a 4-hour flight to get to play you is probably in rugby league terms is probably worth 2 tries. So that's something you could really build up, and I could see a real that first game we played at the Wacker in front of 25,000 people is something that I'll never forget. It's up there. It's up there in my top 5 moments of my career. Running out in that crowd, just I couldn't, because we didn't see the crowd. Back in the day, we didn't warm up on the field, so we were under the ground at the Wacker doing all our warm ups, and I was in there like at halftime in reserve grade, and there was about 5,000 people at the game. I went, oh, that's not bad for our first game. And as we ran out, I went, what the fuck? where did these people come from?
Yeah,
And we found out later that's what they do. Like at Subiaco, when the Eagles and that played, they'd get there right on kickoff.
yeah,
And there was 25,000 people there. It was amazing buzz. It was just an amazing buzz. And as I say, I've done a lot in rugby league, but that's one of the best moments that I can speak of. I loved it.
yeah, absolutely. I bet it was, mate. And the new stadium over here, mate, it's, they'll make it even better. I think it's a 20,000 seat stadium,
Perfect.
purpose built rectangular stadium. So it makes people closer to the game
Yeah.
than
Wow.
what they were at, at
The
the Wacker.
Wacker.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what, the government had built it for, was for trying to get rugby league back, the force as well with the union, and they
Yeah.
play soccer there. So,
Well, mate, I'm going to keep pushing it from my end, so you keep pushing it from
yeah,
your end, and we'll see what happens.
yeah, definitely. You mentioned before Triple M. How's the show going? Are you on the Brecky show still?
I'm on the Brecky show. Yes,
Yeah.
I was on afternoons for 4 years.
Yep.
After doing breakfast for 8 years, so back on Brecky this year, and I think the flexibility of it has helped me adapt a lot better than I did the first time with Brecky, because the fact that I don't have to go in 5 days a week to Sydney, and I still live in Penrith. So the fact that I don't have to drive, 100K round trip every day is a big plus.
Yeah.
And if one thing come out of COVID, which was a positive, was the fact that you can work remotely, with Zoom. And so days I work from home, a normal day for me would be to get up at 3:30. I'll go online and read the papers to see what's happened overnight. And then I do a conference call with my producers at 4:15. And then I go to the gym at 4:30 for a 4:45 class. Once the 4:45 class is finished at about 5:20, I go upstairs and I pre-record the opener to the show and the first sport break.
Yep.
Then I do the start of the second class. And then I come home, turn my equipment on, and I've got a studio at home as well. So,
Yeah, nice.
And I think sometimes that the studio I've got at home is even more clearer than the one I've got in Sydney. So it's amazing what technology's done. So
Yeah,
and everyone's, but it is different being in the studio. I must confess, it's more seeing. I can see the faces on Zoom and on Jitsi and that when I'm at home, but but that kind of keeps me hungry to stay in Brecky Radio. The show's going well. They talk about it a lot of these days. They talk about downloads and unique listeners and all that. But it's the same old thing. If no one's buying ads to your show, they piss you off.
Yeah, exactly.
So the revenue's been strong since we started this year. So that's all we're worried about, to be honest.
Well, that means you're doing a great job. You're getting those listeners coming in. They're interested in what you're talking about. They find you entertaining. Which is perfect. And keeps you in the job in that sense too.
Well, it's good. It's good to know that that I'm 54 this year, so it's good to know that I won't do this forever. And seeing the family gym with the kids there is kind of my next phase. It's always good to know that you've got Plan B. I've never had really a Plan B in my life. I've always just had. But I'm worried about the moment I'm in, and not worried about. But as I'm getting older and my kids are getting older, I'm starting to envisage things that can happen in 5 or 6 years and where I can take this. I'm thinking about going online with the gym and giving people like yourself who aren't close to Penrith and people who are I get a lot of people saying to me, "I wish the gym was closer so I could come." Well, I think I'm going to start doing like online workouts for people so I can send them the workout and Jesse's on the Bricky show with me. He's going to help me with that. She's going to be like the face of that. So yeah, we've got a couple of things in the pipe. Got a couple of things in the pipeline, brother. That we can chat next time we're on.
Yeah, definitely. Just got a couple more questions, mate. Just want to talk about the World Cup that's going on at the moment, the Men's World Cup. How have you seen that tournament going so far? Especially with a couple of big blowout scores here and there. Mate, what's your opinion?
the blowout scores are going to happen. They happen in soccer, they happen in rugby union, they happen in netball, they happen in every sport. But minnows make World Cups. You know, we always know that the strong teams are going to be there when it finishes. But it didn't seem that long ago in rugby league that Papua New Guinea and Fiji and Samoa and Tonga were all minnows. I mean, you've got to have the minnows in a competition so that we have the likes of Jamaica scoring their first try ever. We have Poland trying to beat teams. We have Scotland. We have Greece. Like, who's to say in 5 years' time that, you know, Greece don't kick on, or like it's a festival of rugby league we've got to celebrate. We know they're not going to win the world. We know they're not going to win the World Cup, but if we get one extra viewer or one extra player from that nation that goes back and preaches rugby league to their unconverted, well, that's done its job. The cream rises to the top of every World Cup. I think these days the outrage in society alone, not just sport, is outrageous. I think everyone wants to pile on and say, well, what the fuck are we doing? What's 94 for me? Like, well, they scored a try. They turned up to the game. They got their uniform. They represented their country, and now they're going home proud.
Yep.
We're this weekend we've got the 8 best teams playing against each other. We got what we wanted. So it just come 2 weeks later. So what? It's I think the Tonga versus Samoa game is going to be the best game of the World Cup thus far.
Oh yes,
I also think Fiji could have something up their sleeve for New Zealand. So I'm really looking forward to these games on the weekend. I think Australia are going to be way too strong for Lebanon, who again they were a minnow 10 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, Lebanon in rugby league, go come on, but all of a sudden they become. But you've got to keep playing these test matches. They've got to. You've got to keep playing and getting stronger and having NRL players going back to play it. And it's this game, Papua New Guinea, I mean, like, that's their national sport.
Yeah.
Rugby league is their national sport. And that one day they're going to be a powerhouse. They've look at all the players who have come from PNG and Fiji and played first grade rugby league in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, before that there was none. But all of a sudden, you get the likes of Marcus Bai and Noah Nandruku being trailblazers, and the masses follow.
Yeah,
the same will happen. The same will happen with other countries. I just calm the farm, let it all happen, let it all unfold, and you'll get the best two teams playing in the final. Which I reckon England are going to play Australia in the final.
Yeah, I think it's because if the draw works out the right way, I think Australia plays New Zealand in the semi, don't they? Yeah. So it'll be more than likely England and Australia.
Well, England will play the winner of Samoa and Tonga, and I think if Victor Radley's fit and playing, he'll fire up the Pommies to something special. So on their home deck as well.
Yeah, he's got an injury at the moment with his elbow there, doesn't he?
Yeah. That's a worry. That's a worry. So. They play PNG, who won't be easy. They're tough. They're tough bastards, and they're going to be hard to beat. But I think Victor adds another dimension to that team, and I've been loving it, Jamie. I've been getting up early, watching it, taping it. I'm a rugby league lover, so any game of footy I can watch, I'll watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And the women's World Cup just kicked off a couple of days ago as well. So
we've been watching that. I've been watching that where I can as well.
Yep, I think the Jillaroos had their win. Was it last night? This morning? They had a win
against Cook Islands.
Yeah, yep.
They won convincingly as well.
Yeah, and then you got New Zealand had a win, and I can't remember the other result, the other game.
No, neither.
Yeah, but I know that it's going to be the same sort of thing with that World Cup as well.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
It's about getting these other nationalities out there representing their culture, their country.
Yep.
And just it just takes one or two people to, like you said, like those other guys, Noah and Druku and all those sort of guys, to be those trailblazers, and the masses will follow.
They will. It's honestly, it's once you play the game, once you watch the game, it's the best game. It's custom made for TV rugby league. It's everything's within 10 meters. Where something like AFL, which I really got to love when I was in Perth, you've got to be at the game to appreciate it because so much happens off the ball. Same as soccer, so much happens off the ball. In soccer, you see the lead right. Rugby league, everything's around the ruck area. You see it all happen. It's in 20 meters. You see everything happening. So it's custom made for TV. And if I'd be interested to see the ratings of this World Cup. How it's been rating on Fox and Nine, and I think that'll come out. Once it's done and dusted. But it's certainly been viewed a lot at my joint. I've been loving it.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I'm not sure about over east where you guys are, but over here, it's the games. A lot of the games are on about 2:30 in the morning, so it is very late, early in the morning.
Ours usually start at. Well, this weekend there's one on at 1:30, so you might get one at 10:30 over there.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
I think it might be one of the finals. I believe it could be Sundays between Tonga and Samoa. Could be 1:30 a.m. in so that's our time. That could be 10:30 your time. So that'd be perfect for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be keeping an eye out for that one because I've gone through most of the games and it's just too early in the morning for me at 2:30 in the morning. unless the babies get up. It's kind of a bit early.
That used to be the time I was getting home.
Yeah, exactly.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. How have you found the NRLW competition come along? They've introduced a couple of teams here and there every year.
Loved it.
We've seen the AFLW introduce every single team in the last couple of years. This year was their first year of having all 18 teams or whatever competition teams they got.
Yep.
How long do you reckon until we're up to where the AFLW is?
I love the way we're doing it. I love the way that they're just doing it slowly but surely. I think I know Penrith are interested in getting a team in. I think the way they're doing it is perfect because it leaves you wanting more all the time. Yeah. I think this season the last season we just watched with Newcastle winning the comp over Parramatta. That's when you see the girls evolving as their bodies changing. Yeah. They're starting to look like footballers. They're starting to, their legs. They do a lot of squats. They're bulking up. Their subtle hands. The passing of the ball. Their kicking games. I love watching it. It's a throwback to when rugby league had no wrestle.
Yep.
And I think that's the best rugby league you can watch when there was no wrestle in the game. If you had these athletes now playing a game without the wrestle, the game would go through the roof. Yeah. The wrestle is a blight. It's just a shit fight. It's the bunkers a blight. It's another shit fight. Captain's challenge is a shit fight. It's just we start with six again is a shit fight. I love the game and I'd watch it no matter what. But some things we bring in through COVID we experimented with 6 to go and captain's challenge and the bunkers way too much involved in the game. So. We're not perfect. We're not perfect as a code. As long as we're going the way, as long as we're trying to fix these things, as long as we don't put our heads in the sand and go, they'll fix themselves. But because otherwise, we'll become a rugby union. There'll be too many stoppages. People will turn off because one thing I've hated about the World Cup, getting back to that, is the numbers. The numbers on the backs of the jerseys. Come on, man. Come on.
That's horrible.
That's horrible. Not one person I've spoken to likes it. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? No. We're talking about trying to get people to watch the game. So people watch the game and say, Dad, what's a young kid sitting at home in Poland or Greece or Jamaica or Greece saying, Dad, what's the number 24 in rugby league?
Yeah.
They go, oh, mate, that's just they're alphabetical. Well, okay, what's number 7? That's a halfback. Well, how come that bloke's bigger than me and he's number 7? Well, it's alphabetical order. Come on. Get 1 to 17 back. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I just could not believe that when they announced that. I was like, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And it's every fan that you've talked to has said the same thing. It's just ridiculous. It's hard to unless you're a tragic like myself and you who follow the game, know the positions, know the players that are playing those positions. Yep. If you're sort of a part-timer and you don't know who's playing there, it's confusing as hell.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I thought they might have I thought sanity might have prevailed, and once they got to the quarters or the semi-finals, they went back to 1-17. But it looks like they're stuck in the mud. They're going to knock. They're not moving or budging, so we can just get on with it and stop. I'm becoming one of the outrageous I just spoke about. So, but some things you got to be outraged. You got to be outraged at, and that's one of them. The numbers in this World Cup have been crap.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. MG, I'm going to leave it there, mate. I know you're a busy man. I know you want to go for a bit of a dip in your pool. I really appreciate you. Yeah, beautiful pool there, mate. That's beautiful.
Anytime you come over, mate, you got an invitation to my joint. Anytime you want to come over.
I appreciate that, mate. And same to you, mate. Anytime you come over, let me know and we'll catch up. We'll go for a beer or something. But yeah, appreciate you, MG, for joining me on NRL Fans.
Anytime, my man. Anytime.
Thank you very much, mate. You have a good day.
See you, Jamie.
See you, bud.
Bye, bud.